Welcome back to another episode of Dime Comic Bros podcast. I be calling to it, and he's sitting right here. It was fair and square.
I can choke you out, bro.
There are adults groping each other in front of me, and I'm a little scared.
He has just witnessed the movie Logan and is
literally
basing
in shock.
all of his actions after Laura. He's like Gremlin and Wolverine's child all in one.
The thing is
ball.
I've always
Nothing but
been
true.
that way.
Yeah.
Because my dad's favorite character, all of my childhood was Wolverine. So basically, whenever I saw my dad, I was like Wolverine, and also my dad's just a fucking angry old man half the time. So it's like I am the Wolverine's child. So yeah, I am a gremlin.
He's not wrong.
I don't
Do you
know.
have the toe claws though?
I don't
Have you
want to
seen
know.
my nails?
No, please.
I don't want to.
No foot fetish. No,
No!
put that away.
Put those away.
We are three.
Not on my bed. Not on my bed.
I gotta wash your sheets again.
Why buy a comic that might cost more than a dime? Come meet the brothers who are here to waste your time.
We are three broke dudes that sit around a microphone and try not to spend a lot of money, but we end up spending a lot of money.
I spend the most money.
Actually,
I don't know. Spencer and I are like
I don't
right
even.
up there.
I don't even tell you everything I buy either. I keep a lot of it secret.
I am
figured.
Jacob, joined by Spencer and Colin,
Hi.
Hello.
and we just watched Logan, which came out in 2017. Nailed it.
Yeah, it is the 10th film in the X-Men film series, and it's the third in the Wolverine trilogy. It takes inspiration from the Old Man Logan comic from Mark Millar and Steve McNiven, which is based in an alternate future, follows an aged Wolverine and extremely ill Charles Xavier, who defends a young mutant named Laura from the villainous Reavers, led by Donald Pierce and Xander Rice. It's produced by 20th Century Fox, Marvel Entertainment, blah, blah, no one cares. It's directed by James Mangold, who is also the one who directed and I believe wrote the previous film. And he co-wrote the screenplay with Michael Green and Scott Frank from a story by Mangold.
He's only done Ford versus Ferrari or whatever that movie was since.
And that movie slapped, too.
Yeah. Like, I was looking up his history, and there's not a whole lot there.
He's working on Indiana Jones 5 right now,
Oh.
which might be a pretty dang good pick, to be honest.
Is it a reboot?
No.
Why?
Hence why I said 5.
I know.
It's an actual final entry.
Okay, these days with titles, you don't fucking know.
Right. He's absolutely right. But anyway.
I suppose. It stars Chris Pratt as Indiana Jones.
So then it's a reboot.
Old Man
I'm joking.
Logan.
I'm very much so joking.
I thought he was in Indiana Jones.
No.
No? I thought that was a real thing.
No.
What? What happened to that? That's fine.
No, that's atrocious. That's atrocious
What?
on every level.
How?
We're not getting into Indiana Jones discussion right now.
Yes, we
should
are.
do that someday, though. But we did previously
But we're
talk
doing
about...
that right now.
No, Jacob and I did previously talk about insert marketable actor Chris Pratt on Dime Gaming Bros last month, talking about him also potentially being Nathan Drake. And also, he's Garfield. Kill me. And Mario.
And Mario.
Anyways, moving on. I remember, I think this might be a more than just a me thing, when the Super Bowl trailer for this, the teaser came out for this movie in, I believe it was 2016. Might have been early 2017. It was like an out-of-body experience. It revitalized the interest in Johnny Cash doing covers of inferior bands' music. That trailer was
Excuse
like
you?
transcendent. What?
9 Inch Nails?
They're not as good as Johnny Cash. Shut up, you
Shut
degenerate.
up. Yes, they are.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are. Johnny Cash is kind of overrated.
You're such a zoomer.
I'm really not.
You literally are.
I'm really not.
Half the music we have now wouldn't exist without Johnny Cash.
If anything, I'm a millennial in how I act, so fuck you, Mr. Beardman. Go fucking find your pedestal and stay up there.
I, the millennial, can agree with Spencer on this one. Johnny Cash is the man.
Anyway, yeah,
well,
he is
also,
the man
I don't
in
really
black.
trust your taste in music anyway, so...
Okay, that's fine.
He listens to more metal than both of us combined.
Yes.
It's because it's the only thing he listens to be fair.
That's not true. He listens to Johnny Cash.
Okay.
Dumbass.
Anyways, that first teaser trailer which I had no clue was coming because I was not terribly into movies at the time.
And it's kind of funny that it was during Ball.
Ball.
Because
Ball,
you
another
don't
thing
like
I
Ball.
didn't care. It was the same. I had started watching the Super Bowl for the spots after, I think it was the Force
Yeah.
Awakens spot that came out during the Super Bowl 2 years prior. Because that was
Dang,
early
I'm-
2015.
Ugh.
That was the first one I started. I was like, dang, I should watch Sport Ball for movie trailers. But this marketing campaign for this movie was absolutely insane. I was kind of scared when it came out that it was going to be like kind of deceptive in terms of, tone or whatever.
That's another thing we were catching up on right before the microphone came on is all the promotional posters for it.
They're all Western posters. It's so good.
Except for the
Most.
Schindler's List one.
I guess.
Which almost seems out of taste, but it's so beautiful that I can't even complain about it.
So I remember Colin when we started it. Colin went, wait, why does he have metal now? Because we left off the previous entry with him getting all of his metal extracted with weird stuff.
Science.
The thing that I really liked, especially at the time when I was really hung up on continuity with the Fox universe, because I wanted the universe to be good, even though it was never going to be, was that this movie openly acknowledges the other films and it doesn't try to bounce anything out. Just like the last movie, this one openly acknowledges the previous 2 Wolverine movies as well as various X-Men films. It just is vague about it.
Yep.
To the point where
Yes.
it's like, hey, look, you remember the sword? Hey, you remember the dog tags? And then they offhandedly reference, the X-Men. It's a pretty
Now
central
forget
theme.
about it.
Exactly. That was great. And it pushes itself far enough into the future where you don't really have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And it acts as an excellent cap to his 20-year run as the character and also the franchise. And then they decided to make more movies afterwards, and they've all been shit. So kill me. Colin, as a first-time viewer,
This hot take, this movie was overhyped for me and overrated.
elaborate.
In the sense of this movie's so good, it's on par with The Dark Knight, which I actually think is also overrated to a sense. And
He's so hot with his takes.
because we'll get into that when we talk about Batman.
Oh, gosh.
But this movie is obviously the better of the 3. Obviously, by a long shot.
Obviously.
Everything makes sense. Pacing was great. I think, at least.
That was going to be something I was going to talk about. They clearly take their time in certain moments to have a slow time, but it's still a 2-hour movie.
Yeah, it's 2:10, I think.
Yeah.
Dare I say it's actually filmic?
Yeah.
It's got good pacing, but it never feels painfully slow.
It's
Intentionally slow when it wants to be.
Some shots I don't really care for, most of the time when we see the military guys, because it's always X-Men versus military guys, and that always bothers me.
Unless
But-
it's X-Men versus robots.
Yeah, that's different.
Yeah.
X-Men versus robots is fucking awesome.
Well, yeah.
Um,
I do agree with you on that, actually.
those were kind of boring shots,
I think on the whole, I like how the film seems to be aware of the fact that no matter how well they could write them, the villains are going to be far less interesting at this point because of where the character is.
Yeah.
So they focus on them a hell of a lot less.
Yeah,
and
that's
the
fine.
more interesting part of the the villainous characters is what it means to Logan instead of hey, look, we have a really cool, charismatic bad guy. It's no, it's a nerd and a bunch of army bros, but they also have another clone, That, I think, is a lot. I think that was a wise decision, particularly for this universe, because they've never really had great villains.
I wouldn't say another clone. He is the only clone, and she's an actual offspring of him. He's a sperm donor, in a sense.
In a sense. It
To the
depends on
point,
how you view it.
Because, so she came out of a woman.
Yes,
That clone was body parts put together.
correct.
So that's a clone, this is a human.
For anybody that
It's
hasn't seen the movie, there's a Wolverine clone running around chasing them down.
X-24, which was some
thought it was
excellent.
23.
No, it's 24. All the
She's
kids, the
23.
kids are all 23.
Yeah.
I guess that's really. I mean, it's basically just semantics. But
Yeah.
It feels. It's like a Boba to a Django type deal.
Yeah.
Technically, Boba's a clone, but he's his son because he's not.
Technically.
He didn't come out of a woman. He was still a test tube baby, but he is unaltered.
So,
she's
okay,
she
so
came out of a woman, but
I don't-
it wasn't literally Logan's nut. They faked his nut.
No, I know. But the thing is, that's also, I wouldn't compare that because that's different. Because all the clones in Star Wars are all made the same way.
Mm-hmm.
But the only thing that makes him Jango's son is because he made him all unaltered and he said, this one's my son.
Yeah.
Where this version is literally, it's practically a sperm and also came out of a woman, not a test tube baby. And
Imagine actually being born out of a woman.
I've only come out of the belly button, butthole area.
Yeah, I thought you were a butt baby.
Yeah, I am a butt baby.
Can I please?
So that's different. I wouldn't compare that.
We're arguing semantics, basically.
Sure.
He's a deadbeat dad who didn't know he had a kid running around.
Yes.
Something that really confuses me is that the casting for X-23 Laura, whatever you want to call her, looks facially close to Fump Johnson, and it just, I don't know if it's intentional or not.
is that?
Jean Grey.
I highly doubt
Oh.
that that was intentional.
But-
You know, when I first saw her,
don't
I
really
was like,
get
she
that.
kind of looks like the guy that played Quicksilver.
Which one?
The X-Men one, of
That would
course.
be
The actual Quicksilver.
what's his name?
Not Aaron Johnson, the other one.
Yeah, the other one. The one whose name I can never remember that everyone likes that I don't like.
From
Anyways,
American Horror Story.
yes.
Oh, that is the same guy. Holy crap.
I
Yeah.
love their chemistry. It's like the kind of the strongest part of the movie is how well it doesn't just feel, so there's this thing which we all know about, whether or not consciously, we have the dad trope in, it's a lot of stuff in video games. You know, you get your Last of Us, they did it with God of War, you know,
got
you get
Witcher.
you get your semi deadbeat dad. Maybe it's not their actual kid, but it's metaphorically their kid, and they got to
Yeah.
learn how to like be more human and not be a piece of shit and blah blah blah. But it doesn't feel overly tropey, even though this is literally a Western, not just by form, but also intentionally. Dude, they play harmonica in the score. It's
Yeah,
a Western. It's
a
got all
Western.
it's a neo-Western, I guess. But like, it has all the tropes there, but it doesn't feel overly reliant on it. Instead of it going, hey, we're putting these people in a tropey position, you should fall for it and just believe it. It actually puts in the effort chemistry-wise and putting them through a journey of like their back and forth in having like moments where they can be better to each other, and
Yeah.
then sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. It actually feels linear.
There's
You
also
also-
moments where it's not like she's immediately like, Dad! She's kind of like, get the fuck away from me.
It takes
Let
her the
me hang out with
entire movie.
Grandpa.
Yeah.
And then eventually it's like, I guess I have to take care of my dad.
Yeah.
And because it's not like him like, protecting her. It's like, she's like,
He literally can't anymore.
Yeah, and
I
he's
love
like,
that.
okay, I gotta take care of my dad.
It's
And
great. I love
Which
it.
is the same emotion that Logan has to Professor X.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the whole time. It's
Which-
like
yeah.
he's taking care of his.
His old senile dad.
Yeah.
yeah.
On that note, that was something that I was really surprised with. I believe the first time I watched it, with the balls of pretty, not quite explicitly, but very strongly implying that Professor X killed all the other mutants on accident. That's rough, dude. That's fucking ballsy.
I've never caught that.
That's the implication.
Yeah, because they keep referencing an incident that happened on the East Coast. He didn't
don't
remember that he
remember.
had hurt other people before. Logan's always being like, there are no more mutants, and then Xavier says, "What did you do?" And it's like, no, what did Xavier do, Mister Dumb Big Brain?
There's something implied, but
I would see that. I could see
like
that.
it's explained more in the comic of like post-apocalyptic nuclear war stuff.
Yeah, like whatever.
But
But that's not really present in
Yeah,
this.
no, it takes some light aesthetic inspiration from the comic. It has very little else to do with it.
well, I'm just saying the backstory could be pulled from the comic, or it could be implying that Professor X did some, but I don't think it's all. I don't know.
I could probably pull up a quote.
Anyway,
But I like the fact that there's lots of implied stuff in terms of X-Men backstory, but they don't go...
Mr. Big Wiki take skills over here.
Yeah, I know, right? It doesn't feel like they are invoking feelings that are unearned. And that's something I think is really hard for this movie to do as a finale to his story. Everyone's always liked Hugh Jackman to some extent or another, but most of the movies have been mixed. We'll leave it there. So the fact that it's a metaphorical end cap, it was supposed to be an end cap for the entire franchise, and that it was an end cap for him, and it's pulling on nostalgia and like remembrance and referencing other films that happened like 20 years ago in our world, but it doesn't, at least for me, it doesn't feel like, hey, remember this?
Yeah,
it's more like
it's not in your face.
it's
about
acknowledging its own history. It feels like an actual story with people who have actual backstories, but it's not always relevant, and people don't always say what, like, they don't have to turn everything into an exposition dump. When we talk as normal people, we can reference things that happened God knows however long ago, and we can say it in the weirdest, most coded language, and we still know what we're talking about.
Yep.
But if someone was observing that conversation, they have no fucking clue. And I like how it runs with that instead of having to overly explain every little detail. It's just, here's the world now, this is what we're working with, sit down, shut up, and enjoy it.
Yeah, I do like that.
The choreography in the fights is very well done, especially with Laura and Wolverine fighting together in the end scene.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where you get the most of it anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit.
The wire work was phenomenal. That's always been one of the things with Wolverine himself, is always he feels a little floaty sometimes.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of moments. I think part of it might be because you can see some of the shots where you're like, oh, I see why you lined up the trees there, so you can help hide cuts.
Yep.
But it looks phenomenal. Like, it doesn't matter if you pick up on it. It works. And then I might be wrong, but I believe Daphne Keane did most of her own stunts. That's pretty cool.
I believe
she was like 12, I think, then. So, yeah, like 12 tops. That's phenomenal work. And her performance, whilst having almost no dialogue, to pair along with the choreography is just excellent.
She does a killer Wolverine-esque scream, howl, I don't know what you want to call it, but her exclamations as she's fighting are great.
Mm-hmm.
It is kind of strange that whilst it is almost everything that comes out of her mouth is an ungodly screech, it doesn't get old.
No.
At least for me, it doesn't feel like, oh my gosh, can the child please shut up?
No, it's
actually
exactly what Logan is doing when he's fighting.
It just happens to be in a high-pitched child voice. And
Yeah.
it feels really good and actually expressive.
Yeah, she's like my favorite part of the whole movie.
Of course, you vibe with it.
Yeah, I vibe with
Not like I can blame you on
the
that.
screeching and jumping and cutting and
Not understanding how money works. He just walks through the gas station like eating chips and pulling out sunglasses.
yes, that's what I do on a regular basis at a gas station.
Fair. I mean, yeah.
I mean, the sunglasses have to like fit over my glasses, but you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
look cool. These are mine now.
I really liked all of the emotional beats on the story level of watching the multiple characters that we've had for ages die is a lot, and particularly because at least, God forbid, whatever else is happening in the world, in our world, where they may or may not bring them back, and I want to die. Just in this movie itself, the fact that it actually treats death like it means something is quite nice. It doesn't undo deaths from previous movies, and it nails the ones that it does have. It was right before X-24 walks into the family home and then stabs Xavier. Colin was flicking through his phone real quick, and I was just sitting here like, no, you're going to miss all the good beats. And it's just this lovely little... It's a speech, like it's a movie speech, but it's just...
It doesn't feel like
No,
it.
it's quiet, and it's this nice little moment of... It makes me feel nostalgic for the X-Men movies, even though I'm not nostalgic for those movies. I did watch them as a kid, and I watched them fall apart even more as I got
I watched
older.
them for Mystique's boobs.
Yeah, same. Like, I appreciate some elements of them, but whatever, but it makes me feel nostalgic for these characters of... It's been so long since they've felt like that. It actually hits pretty damn hard. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's Patrick Stewart, you know.
Who, even before the X-Men, was Jean-Luc Picard. Like,
He's just god tier
Yes.
in everything. I still want to know how much money they had to pay. Like, divide up the words he says by the money he got paid. How much money did they pay him to say choo-choo twice? That's
Logan.
I have
Logan.
to pee.
I have to pee.
It's so funny.
I can do it myself. I need your help. You obviously aren't doing it.
It doesn't feel like
sad too. Like,
yeah, exactly.
it's bittersweet because that's how old folks kind of
Get
to
Yeah.
be.
But it
their
doesn't
age.
feel like it's so indulgent in its own misery where it feels disrespectful. Not because I'm one of those people who's like, you have to respect every fictional character. Like, fuck
Right.
them. Put them in weird situations. I don't care. But it doesn't feel like it's disrespectful to the amount of time he's put into this franchise as being, literally Patrick Stewart, and then still going down to do like cape shit, and the amount of work he's put in some excellent performances. And it's like, yeah, we're going to put him in a wheelchair and like a stained old man shirt, and he's gonna go on random Alzheimer's rants, but it doesn't feel like it's making fun of him. It feels very earnest in its storytelling, and I really appreciate that.
I have to pee.
Stabby Wabby, go Stabby Wabby. Back to what you were saying, the choreography.
No, that was it. It's just like
Oh,
they do really good choreography in this, and it's nothing. It's not like Mission Impossible style craziness.
Nah.
Like, it's grounded.
it feels
It's-
like an old man stumbling around trying to stab people in the head.
Yeah, and Laura is like
It's not too flippy.
springy
Yeah.
and lithe. I don't know.
She's light on her feet.
Yeah, she's.
But also way too strong.
It's like even more storytelling is like she hasn't been trained in how to use her claws. She's just figured it out.
Yeah,
and-
she's just doing flippy, spinny kicks.
I like that because Wolverine's always been, at least for the movies, like animalistic. Like he's just a freaking animal. He's just going off shit. Because it also doesn't really look like Logan's ever trained or even tried to train. He just
barrels through it.
Yeah, he just goes through it, and
Just
that's what
tanks
she's
everything.
Yeah, that's what she's doing. She's just jumping through shit. It's like it's instinct
Yeah.
for them.
Wolverine is 1,000% more likely to take a bullet intentionally than she is, though. She's
But she did. She did that.
She did a couple times, but the thing that was what not convinced me. One of the strongest opening beats is the fact that he would rather take a belly full of lead than let his car get damaged because
Yeah.
he has to pay the bills.
Mm-hmm.
It's so that is actually pathetic. Like he is literally he's sleeping in his car under a free pass because he has to do Ubering basically because he has to like not sleep for days on end to pay to get some shitty meds and
You
then
got to see boobies.
I mean fair, but like it's so sad, not just because oh look this character is like fallen from grace. It's like look at this old man having to do stuff he should not have to do to like just live. It's so sad.
But back on to Laura, one of the biggest things I noticed was she covered Professor X
Yeah.
in the car when they're shooting. Like she covered over him
Yeah.
to take the bullets for him, and then she sat down. She just kind of like spat them out. She bit them out of her arms, spat them out. I was like, that's badass.
I love the express. So she's in a lot of other stuff now. She's actually very. This was like her breakout role. But
yeah.
just watching her outside of this movie, she does not look so ferocious. Like she looks like a pretty normal like kid. But holy cow, her demeanor is insanely convincing. Just the constantly furrowed brow. It doesn't look like she's an actor shoving her face into a nasty bit. Like she just looks like that all the time.
Yo.
It's so good. And then it only breaks right at the end when she's like losing her shit. It's so funny. Just that's an incredible performance from a literal child. And it's not a 18-year-old playing a 10. It's a literal child.
Yes.
Actual child actors are
Yes.
great when they're done well.
And good directing.
True. Definitely need the
You like
directing
your
end.
child acting done well, not rare, medium rare.
Done well.
Not to start the argument over again, but because I want to get this thought out, I really, 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 really appreciate the Johnny Cash song at the end of the movie during the credits. It feels very applicable because it was at the end of Johnny Cash's life too, so he sounds just as old and broken as Logan and Patrick Stewart are in this movie.
I mean, the lyrics, it's literally about the man coming around to
Yeah.
collect the bill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever you've done catches up to you at the
And
end.
the afterlife.
It's like, oh!
Yeah.
Nice.
And just his vocals in it are not perfect. It's an old man singing.
It's nice that they decided to pay the money to get the original rights instead of paying for a cover.
Right.
And sometimes covers can be really good. Like every cover of Hallelujah is wonderful, but they never get the same magic of Leonard Cohen, this old, heavy, smoking, drinking man who's barely even singing anymore.
Yeah.
It's like I would put them in roughly the same class of storyteller in terms of their writing, at least. It's just this old, like, is an old man sitting at the corner of a bar with a guitar, just singing for no reason, you know?
And it definitely feels like the closing note. It's like
It's
there's
actually
nothing after the credits.
Nope.
It's just Johnny Cash
There's no
performing
other.
a song.
There's no teases in the movie. The only thing you could remotely call that is the fact that there are mutant kids running around, but that's
Yeah.
not sequel bait. That's just called paying off your story and believing in that hope, which is the thing that it's kind of the point of Logan as a character, is he's constantly trying and then failing, and then he goes back into being a really angry, depressed, lonely dude, and then he has to get like coaxed out of his shell, and then his life is just this constant cycle of shit.
Yeah.
And then you still can't give up. You have to keep trying. Eventually it will pay off, even if it's just for those last few moments in your life. Like, that's so
Leave it to the Snyder Bot to inject his hope payoff ideals into a movie.
I noticed.
I mean,
So-
literally,
I'm just kidding.
like- it may not be real, but believe in it for her. Like, it's literally like parenting 101. I don't have kids, but this is what I'm assuming is one of the pretty important things, is like letting your kids like kind of believe things that aren't true. For you
Yeah.
let them have those couple of years where their life is simple.
Hope.
Exactly. And it's like, we're going to be careful and not ruin this for you before we have to. Before you have to get thrown into the real world and understand that some of this shit might not actually exist. And then he ends up getting proven wrong because it's real. So,
Colin, what he's saying is that Santa Claus isn't real.
Fuck.
no, Santa Claus is definitely real.
And he kissed my mom.
Yeah.
Your mom's a whore.
So what I noticed was that we got a call back to the last movie, The Wolverine, where what's her face?
Oh my gosh, you're gonna say the thing.
Shut the fuck up,
Say the
you
thing.
bearded fuck.
Say the thing.
I saw you die with your heart in your hand.
Yes! He got it.
And he did. He died with his heart in his hands. And I thought that was so fucking good. I was like, oh, fuck yeah. That's...
Did you get that on your own, or did you read it
Oh,
online?
I saw
anywhere?
that.
Nice.
I saw that.
Nice.
Even if it's just a coincidence, which I don't think it is, it's nice that moment is actually played genuinely instead of, now we have voiceover of the previous movie echoing the words. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's literally just, if you noticed it, you noticed it. If not, no big deal.
I believe it's intentional.
Oh, for sure.
Because I think it's hinted at with the Schindler's List poster. Like, I think it's 100% intentional, and
For sure.
they were.
It's also,
That's what they were going for.
It's also just a payoff to a previous moment in the movie where when they're burying Xavier and she, for once, is trying to comfort him and he can't accept it. And he just runs off, smashes up the truck, has a drunken rant, passes out, the way you do. And then at the end, exactly.
Everybody's been there.
That
at
was
least
rough
once.
to watch, honestly.
Yeah. And then it's a payoff inside the movie. It's a payoff from outside the movie. It's such a great...
This movie's a payoff.
It's true. And it doesn't feel like it's a referential payoff. It's not a... Not to totally just bring up shitty comparisons, but I like Endgame, of course. But it doesn't lean... This isn't fan service payoff. There's a time and a place for that, and that's totally fine. But this doesn't feel like, hey, you remember this other... It's more like, hey, do you remember this feeling you had watching this other thing? We're going to invoke... It actually feels like it earns whatever references you can read into it. You kind of have to read them into it. If you didn't actively remember the thing it's referencing, you're not going to notice. And the fact that the death... It just... Oof. The fact that she says the words daddy twice, and it doesn't feel contrived, means a lot. I don't know how the hell they pulled that off. It's not... It doesn't feel like, oh, look, she said the D word.
So what made it better for her saying that and it being honest, it was under her breath. It wasn't like, Dad! It was just like, Dad.
She's literally crying.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's like, my dad.
She got
This is
boogie.
who I wanted my dad to be. This is
Yeah.
My dad, boogie woogie woogie.
She's literally got a boogie hanging out her nose.
Yeah,
Not
dude.
just because good acting is when boogie, but good acting is when boogie.
Yes, boogie woogie woogie.
This movie is so well made. It's, I want to say it's one of my favorite movies, but it's so dark and difficult to watch. Like, Logan wants to kill himself through most of the movie.
I love how well that was handled.
It's disturbing and it's hard to sit through, but it's just so well done.
I mean, even in the previous movie, they reference the fact he's at the point in his life where he's
tired.
Yeah, he's lived
seen it
for
all.
like 500 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the exact quote, but in the last movie they're like, yeah, a man who constantly lives with nightmares wants to die.
Yep.
Every moment awake or asleep is the same for him at this point, and he is kind of just running, like spinning his wheels. He just can't bear to abandon Xavier or kill him, so he's just doing that. Like, it has nothing to do with himself anymore. So the fact that he thinks he's some really conceited, selfish dude is like just not true. Like, he's believing things about himself that aren't even accurate just because he wants to feel like a piece of shit.
And
Because he thinks he is a piece of shit.
the reason he hasn't done it is because he's still taking care of Xavier.
Mm-hmm. Even though it makes his life even more miserable and he has nothing. He still has that little bit of... It's just heroism in that sense.
Responsibility.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it. Like, that was that's why, that in particular is why the final moment where Laura tilts the cross down into an X doesn't, for me, feel like stupid bullshit. Is because, like I said, it makes me feel nostalgic for a time for me that never actually existed.
Right.
Like, it's like, yeah, he didn't die, just as a random dude. He died a hero, as what the X-Men were supposed to be. We never really saw that happen because of how the movies were made. But, like, for that, he got to live his last moments doing that, and she saw that. And that is really, really moving, at least for me. Call me a fucking blubbery bitch. I don't care. I don't care.
This movie makes all the nerds cry.
At least a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, the chubby little kid had a Wolverine toy. Come on. I would agree with you, though. This is... It is simultaneously tied down by its association with a very mixed bag of a universe, but it is also elevated because it somehow elevates that universe to end on a high note. It works with the crap hand that it has, and it still manages to be excellent.
Yeah. Like, I want to go watch the noir version with Colin right now, but it's so difficult to sit through. I love it and I hate it at the same time.
What do you mean? Why is it difficult?
It's just...
It's rough.
I don't like thinking about suicide for a couple hours.
So...
It's the same thing with The Shining. Like, it's a very well-made movie, and the book is fairly enjoyable, but it's like every chapter of the book mentions suicide, and it's like, I don't like thinking about it for so long.
So, for me...
I'm gonna side. I know where Colin's going, and I'm gonna side with Colin on this.
Yeah, I know.
So how I am with movies, this is actually one of the main reasons why I watch movies and shows so much, is because it's comforting knowing that someone else also thinks about suicide as much.
Fair.
Because when I watch something that, like, no one thinks about the things that I think about or things like that, there's moments where I'm like, I don't want to feel relatable. I don't want to be relatable. I don't want to find anyone that's relatable. I'm me. But then there's moments where I'm
Literal
like,
hipster.
there's literal moments where I'm like, I feel alone. And then these movies that talk about these, or insinuate and show these thoughts of suicide, it helps.
Yeah. Basically everything Colin said. I mean, yeah, like sometimes it's good to feel like, oh, I have my own unique experience and my own ideas, and no one else liked this movie, and that's fine. But, like, sometimes it's nice to just actually have a similar experience to somebody else. Mm-hmm. I mean, the thing we're going to talk about later is a good example of that, where it's like, it's totally okay. There's nothing wrong with agreeing with a bunch of other people. Like, it's nice that a fairly large budget movie, not just a little indie movie made by two guys for a shoestring budget that discusses these things. It's like, no, you're a hero. Apparently, one of these people, that like whether as children or as adults, metaphorically or literally look up to in some sense or another, still deals with these sorts of things. It's just incredibly moving in that sense. and definitely at the time was really relevant. I think as I've gotten older, I might not quite enjoy it quite as much. It's not as enveloping as it was at the time, because 2017 was a rough year, you know? But
yeah, I know.
Yeah. So I have said most of my pieces, to be fair.
I'm all set.
This is one of my favorite... I hate comic book... Yeah, it's not one of my favorite movies ever, but this is definitely, like, top-tier cape shit. For sure.
Yeah. It's not. It's not on my rewatch list, but it's definitely on my. Probably like. A tier.
You'll buy it eventually.
Will you?
Maybe. I don't know if I'll buy it, but I definitely will.
You are
talk
pretty
good about
stingy
it.
with buying stuff.
Will you at least watch it in black and white?
Yeah, I'll watch it again in black and white,
it's
but
so good
that'll
in
probably
black and
be it.
All right.
That's fair. Yeah, so speaking of communal experiences, we're by the time this comes out, we'll be slightly past due, but we all watched The Batman, which is one impressive. We got Jacob to go out opening weekend.
Jeez, buddy, that's crazy.
Not just once, but twice.
He went again without me.
Yeah.
I went without all of you guys twice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a 2022 superhero movie made by WB Pictures, directed by Matt Reeves, who wrote the screenplay with Peter Craig. This sees Batman, who has been fighting crime in Gotham City for 2 years, uncovering corruption while pursuing the Riddler, a serial killer who targets Gotham's elite. So, we're not going to go in as much. We got to not be super overindulgent.
Why not?
Because we're not going to talk about it for an hour. We will do an episode on this not too far down the line.
Fine.
We can totally do that. But because we all so I want to list off how many times have we all watched it in the past week and a half it's been in theaters.
So I can't watch it during the week because of my schedule, but I'm watching it today and I'm watching it tomorrow, so it'll be 4 times by the end of the weekend.
Dang.
Nice.
I've only seen it.
And then the week after, I'm going to watch it for a 5th time with another friend.
You
Twice.
haven't brought me yet.
Because I haven't been able to.
So I went once with Jacob, which was in IMAX. That was excellent. Then, if you haven't seen it in IMAX, it is worth it.
Absolutely.
See it in IMAX.
I went and watched it in RPX, which is like a 4D experience. It's bigger screen and better speakers. I went and did that with my girlfriend. That was excellent. Then I went by myself 3 more times in the past week.
My gosh.
Okay, so here's the thing. I would do that if I was on day shift. On night shift, so none of the schedules work for me.
It barely works. I have had no time. I haven't finished my laundry, but I have watched the Batman 5 times.
So
I'm so fucking jealous of you.
I was really pissed off when I went the second time because I got front row for IMAX and it sucked.
Bro,
But
why'd you even go?
I thought it was the back row. I was really, really pissed off when I got to the theater.
Literal dumbass.
But I wanted to go in IMAX again because of the sound design. The sound, especially for the Batmobile, is so
Dude, car
perfect.
porn. It's just car porn.
It really is.
It
so
just
fucking good.
rattles your bones, and it's so good, so crisp and
In
crunchy.
general, on the noise and sound design front, I think it's clear enough that we all very much like it.
It's literally ASMR.
It's my favorite Batman movie.
Same. The one thing that I like the most, my favorite motif was the sound of him walking from the darkness. 1, because it's spooky. 2, because it sounds excellent. And 3, he sounds like a fucking sheriff.
Yeah, literally.
Not the first time, but the second time, it almost sounds like Spurs.
Yeah, it does.
Oh!
It's definitely just the shit that's like
It's
on
just
his belt.
Yeah, but it's like, that's not a coincidence.
No, it's on purpose.
Mwah.
But you can hear the leather creaking.
Oh
like,
my God.
all
I
the
bought the
time.
boots.
Of course you
Oh my
I bought
gosh.
the boots.
They're good boots. No, it is so strange to say that the sound design was something that stood out so strongly, but it really did. Even in like all the different ways I've been to 4 different theaters. It's so unanimously well crafted that it's like the whole thing's ASMR. It's great.
And
then
it's so fantastic because the shots are so good too because it brings you in. It's not like you're watching it from an outside source like all other Batman movies. This movie, it's like the shots are set up so
It's
like you're
very
close.
POV.
Like where she's like, "Don't worry, I got 9 lives, honey," and she kicks the dude off. It's literally how the camera's set up. Is like it's Batman's
right
chin,
there. Yeah.
and it's like right there, so it's like, oh, she's on me.
Yeah, it's a very POV-centric movie. And
Yeah.
I really appreciate that specific element works really well in terms of creating the parallel between Bruce Wayne and Edward Nashton without really overdoing it and going into OMG, he's literally a reflection. OMG, he's literally the other side of the coin. It's like, no, it demonstrates through the specific instance that I really like is the opening, which was shocking, as they did say. It opens up with a murder, which is great.
Yes.
Of Riddler stalking the mayor through the binoculars, whatever. And then
I was surprised by that.
before the end of the first act, what is Batman doing? He's being a fucking creep and stalking Selina in her apartment. The movie itself openly admits this is creepy and not good by the way that it's framed and how he's kind of into it.
Yeah, he's
and
watching
she's like,
her.
dude, what the fuck? Like, yeah, it's Batman. We expect him to do that. But this movie, not subtly, but not explicitly critiques the fact that Bruce Wayne's kind of creepy.
He's a virgin.
Yes.
This version's a virgin.
He might not literally be, but he metaphorically is.
Yes.
He needs to touch grass, get outside, and, chill. He has no... There is no Bruce Wayne...
Eat ass.
True. There is no Bruce Wayne persona, which is really cool. I'm sure
love that.
they'll develop it. I think it'll happen.
I'm fine if,
I'm fine if they don't.
I hope it's not overdone Playboy like we got in, The Dark Knight.
No.
I love the Playboy that we got in BVS.
Same. I like it. It needs to provide a utility to the story itself as we view it, but also how the characters need it. The only time we see him be Bruce Wayne is because he's like, well, the Riddler will probably be here, and I should go out in public. And then you see the public be like, what the hell is this dude doing here? Whoa, because it's so weird. He's a literal billionaire who hasn't been seen very much. He's an actual recluse. He doesn't feel like, oh my, I don't know. This feels more timely now. This is a really contemporary movie in partially its aesthetics, its technology, and whatever. But it feels like this dude's almost a Zoomer. He's still a millennial based on his age, but he's really close. These are billionaires how they are now. They don't go outside. They don't fucking touch grass. They're weird, distant, out-of-touch weirdos. Versus, you get The Dark Knight where it feels very mid-late 2000s, which I like. It's just very distinctive.
I want to go back to sound design because I've had the Something in the Way Nirvana cover stuck in my head
It's not a cover.
all week.
So that is
I thought it was a cover.
So that's the thing. The one in the trailer is I did research. The one in the trailer it's a somewhat remix. The instrumentation is different, and it's bass boosted.
Okay,
The one in the movie is slightly tweaked, but it is the original. They just change a couple of the way that it hits
So
is
the
different.
the only way that it's tweaked is just
It's not the whole song, basically.
It's the whole song because I listened to the song.
I know.
It's the whole song.
Backup vocals.
What?
They took out the backup vocals
That's
in the
part
chorus.
of it. Yes.
Yeah. So basically, they have the whole song. It's like we'll take this out or we'll silent this and we'll silent this here. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And then they used those parts when it plays the second time in the movie.
It's so good.
So, my point was right.
I love that he turns it down in the back. He was actually listening to it.
It turns it into diegetic.
He's a zoomer. He's such a
turns
zoomer.
Can I please?
Sorry.
In the chorus, when he hums those two notes are spaced exactly the same amount as the rest of the soundtrack.
Yeah.
So, the fact that Batman is playing it in his cave implies to me that this song is stuck in his head the whole time. And it adds to his brooding.
That's a good. I didn't.
It's stuck in
really
my
think
head.
of that. I mean, yes, it's absolutely stuck in my head. That's really cool. It's his in-universe theme song.
Yes.
See, the thing that I
I
noticed
don't know
is
about that. It's
to
just
him
stuck
at
in his
least.
head.
To him
So
it
when
is.
he's spending all that time with himself brooding, that's what's playing in his mind.
He's got ADHD. He's got ADD.
He's
got that music playing. He's rewatching recordings that he did, which that was so fucking
writing.
good.
That was
it's the contact. And he puts it on something that reader and. That makes so much more sense. Why he's always so slow is because he's letting.
It's not just for the vibe.
Not just for that,
But it's also for the vibe.
It's for the vibe to piss people off and to record, and also he's listening to the news and music.
Yeah.
He's also
He's so overstimulated. It's insane.
I love it.
But he
I
doesn't
relate.
feel like he is jittery. He's very mellow.
Yeah.
He's so depressed. It's great.
I love it. I relate, and
He is an emo kid. But
he is
it's
literally
not-
the kid in class who records the entire lecture and watches it later.
Yeah, like they do amp up the like, oh, this is an emo kid type shit.
Yeah.
But it's not too much. At least for me, it doesn't
He's
feel
a
like
normal
it's like
emo kid.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's like tacky.
No.
It's like, no, this is like
He's like us.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, there are plenty of people like this. It just works really well. What I was noticing with the Something in the Way and the timing is that same key signature is what is used in the actual Batman like motif for him. So it is the music is diegetic in a couple of moments where he's literally listening to it. You're saying it's stuck in his head, and I'm saying it is literally the composer based the theme off of those notes, which is really cool.
What I was saying too. It does the same thing as
definitely move away from like the outer stuff and get to the actual story.
Okay, so
I have 3 things I want to shotgun really quick.
I have things too.
Oh boy, am I the only one who doesn't have notes for once?
Yep.
3 things I want to shotgun really quick because I noticed them on the second viewing. 1, there are abandoned renewal buildings everywhere. Renewal is the orphanage fund that Thomas Wayne set up, and I didn't realize in the first viewing that there were just abandoned buildings everywhere, implying that the funding had run out or the project was abandoned, and especially because the mayor that's killed in the opening scene has so many expensive cars. It's all very good storytelling with no words being said.
There's also the bat signal is in one of those buildings as well.
Yeah.
Opening scene, Batman changes in the train car. You're not sure of the 3 storylines where there are bad guys doing bad things.
He does a Superman.
Where
I love that. I love that he's always changing. He always has the bat suit on him. He's just changing
in his
in and
backpack.
out.
It's nice. It's somehow compact enough he can put it in his backpack.
I hadn't caught that you could see that it was him in the opening scene. So very well done there. And also the Batmobile is being built through the movie until it is finally released in such a beautiful
it's not being
way.
built, it's being modified.
Yeah, modified.
Okay,
because he's
you
had
see
that
the engine and all
because
that.
he's had that car since he started being a race car driver or a street racer in Gotham, because that's what the prequel book has said, because he built that car when he was 16.
Yeah. The thing that I noticed on repeat viewing, which I think has made the rounds fairly well now, whilst the mystery on repeat viewing, which is what you were concerned about, was does it kind of like unravel itself? It's meticulously done. The one
Matt
thing
Reeves is that way.
I know that, but you never know. It's worth looking into. Pay more attention to some stuff. That
I was just wondering, like, how much of the world are we filling in because we know so much Batman lore?
Almost nothing. There is one thing which shows that they are, aside from the like URL joke, which is they're really dense, which is funny. The sense of humor in this movie is excellent. But what I was saying was, there's one thing that they really should have picked up on that they literally didn't because they are dumb. The camera angle from the original photos is literally from Riddler's apartment, and in the opening of the movie, you can see him in the apartment. When you go outside the Iceberg Lounge, you can see him in the building.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah. You can see. You can't
they
totally
even look
tell
at
it's
the
him.
angle of the camera.
And they look at the telescope. They're like, look, this is where the shots came from, dude. If you had, this is some of the most basic like detective work. Is how you
of CSI?
like unironically, it's like they're so tunnel visioned that they didn't think of that.
And the thing is, people will say like, they should have known. No, tunnel vision's a real thing.
And that's what it feels like to me, is because there's only one element that's like that.
Because so here's the thing, like with our job, like there's a point where you're doing our job and it's like tunnel vision and you don't see this outside source, and then I have like one of the other guys in our crew come down and like, why don't you just do this? And we're like,
why didn't we think of it?
Yeah, exactly. Your tunnel vision. You have to
and
step
they
away.
that happens twice in the movie. Only one of them is acknowledged though. There's the fact that they could have just traced where the photos came from. That's pretty obvious. And then they have the other one where Penguin's like, "Do you guys not know Spanish? You dumb fucks."
I love that. It's like,
which really
that
was so funny. That interrogation scene was hilarious.
It's like he's showing this. He's like, "What are you showing me? Hey, what are you doing?"
He is such
open your eyes.
That was an actual.
He waddles like a penguin too when he's
that was great. He also has really big wedges on his shoes, which is pretty funny. That moment was the first time I was like, "Holy shit, Jim Gordon is a serious ass motherfucker." Like,
yeah, he is.
It's a given. He's Jim Gordon. We all know that. But the theater goes dead silent because there's such a long gap after Jim screams and you can hear it reverberate. There's no cut. There's no music. It just keeps going for like 10 seconds, and then they continue, and it's like, okay, this is
I love that
excellent.
Jim Gordon's actually like he's actually in this.
It feels like a buddy cop movie, but it doesn't take away from Batman, which is the thing that I get concerned about is when, like, in comics, we have a storyline that has a Robin or a Batgirl or whatever, and
we get their
sometimes
side of the story.
and I like that, but sometimes it takes away from the Batman narrative
Yep.
of having it be so split. This is not split; it's still very much a Batman POV story, but Gordon's there every step of the way.
Yeah, but I do like that we don't get like cutscenes of just Gordon doing something.
He has a
with-
wedding
without
ring.
Batman.
He is married. I didn't notice
Yeah.
that until my third time. You can see it underneath the glove. He is married.
I know
Batgirl when?
this is a point that all three of us are ready to talk about, but Batman uses a flashlight. He's like actually a detective.
Yes.
And he's low tech. I love when he's walking around
Colin
the
is
first
coming.
investigation scene. Like, he's just walking around looking, and he finds blood in a corner of the room and just walks away. He doesn't call it out or anything.
No,
Like,
and
the
then-
cops are
and they
following
see-
him and
yeah.
start taking pictures.
It's so good. I'm rejuvenated in with Batman now because this movie reminded me of why I like Batman, and it made me unintentionally reread my old Batman comics I had growing up as a kid. So I'm like, what? Did they just reference this old-ass comic that I've never heard anyone else talk about? It's just read. And it's all of the Legends of Batman, which take place after year one, which are all year two, basically.
It's all unironically year 2 Batman.
It's
This is
Sha-
all
it's
before
the Shaman,
Yeah.
it's Prey, it's all these...
They'd better
other-
do Venom next, I swear.
Oh,
to God.
yeah,
I
it'd be so good.
swear to God.
So, it made me remember why I like Batman. I love Batman for being low-tech, which... in this universe, everything has a purpose, so to a sense, Batman's low tech.
It's not showy tech.
Yeah,
It's
because like that
very-
printer was an old ass looking printer, and like all the monitors, everything's used has a use, and the only thing that's
But he
like
also has streaming.
higher,
He has streaming eyeballs.
yeah. So the only thing that's higher tech is that, which
Yeah.
is fine. Also, he doesn't use a bat glider. He has
He has a puffy like squirrel suit.
yeah. Also, that's one thing I like is that this Batman isn't like. Everything isn't perfect like in like Batman Begins. Like he does everything perfectly. This one he's like literally hit his head on a bridge and like tumbled.
He ate shit, and then
he
he
eats
just
shit
doesn't
all the
reference
time
it. He
from
just
bad guys.
doesn't reference it again.
Nope, he just
It-
walks away.
That moment got such a big laugh out of the theater. I was very impressed, and that's something that I really liked about this. Is all of it is quite funny. It's not like everyone's gonna chuckle the whole time. But it isn't unrelenting darkness. It's very character-driven humor. It's this person would say that thing. We find it funny because Penguin talks like a New York, like Italian mob boss.
Yeah.
Like, but it's not really funny for them. We find it funny. And it's funny that Batman eats shit.
I like when Penguin is like an actual like his whole point is that he's a dirtbag trying to be high society. That's what's the best. And it's not like him, he's a dirtbag as in he's physically gross. As much as I love Batman Returns Penguin, I like Mob Boss Penguin where he's a dirtbag gross.
As Falcone says, to me, you're always just a gimp in a suit. It's clearly a really like, it's a hard hitting insult because then Penguin like loses his shit.
Yep.
Penguin.
So-
One thing I noticed was there's this really cool shot, which I don't know if this was intentional, maybe it's just my brain, but you know that lip scar he has. He's got a bunch of scars, but like the one on the lip, when Batman in the Iceberg Lounge pushes him up against the glass, there's one shot where it looks like, based on where the scars line up, it looks like his nose is longer than it is. And it looks
I
like
did
a
notice
pointy
that,
penguin
yeah.
nose. And I was like, is this intentional? Because if it is, that's insane. Because I was like, I wonder why he's scarred. Is there going to be a story on this, or is he just ugly boy? And I saw that, I'm like, I bet they planned that, didn't they? You only see it like once or twice, but it looks so, it's like, oh, he's got a long-ass hook nose. Not really, but only from some angles.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
So, here's the things that I noticed about the Batman, which were inspired by comics. So, first, Bruce comes from the Arkham family tree. His mother was an Arkham. This is also the case in Batman Earth 1 series.
Yeah.
The Batcave being in an abandoned subway system built by his ancestors in the movie. It's built by the Waynes, but the idea is found in Volume 3 of Batman Earth 1, which was the systems were sewer systems built by the Arkhams to trick ghosts.
Yep.
To confuse them. And then there's a lot of scenes where the pacing is very slow. but noticeably done on purpose. Like when I first started watching my first viewing of this movie, like some pacings I was watching, and I'm like, oh, this feels like forever, but it's good. Like where he's trying to take the note out of the bat cage, that was forever taking, and that's the thing I noticed is it's like a comic panel. That's Matt Reeves' version of creating a comic panel where Zack Snyder achieves it as like it's literally slow-mo.
It's a storyboard.
So he does slow-mo to make it a comic book panel, but Matt Reeves is like slow pacing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, it's so good. This isn't an origin story for Batman, obviously, or even Bruce, but of the underworld of Gotham. Traditionally, with the beginnings of the Batman, we're shown that Batman fights organized crime and petty crimes. But after most of the crime family is wiped out, the supervillains step in, taking up the remains, which is kind of like the big story for Long Halloween.
Being directly after Earth 1, not Year 1. Yeah, it's that transition period that this hits like right on the head.
And then this movie does that perfectly. It isn't two separate films of like crime families falling, then another film of supervillains rising, which is like Batman Begins, crime family.
Yeah.
Then The Dark Knight is like, oh, we have supervillains now.
Right.
But it shows that these are both happening at the same time, or have been happening for years now. This world actually grows and evolves. Like many have already have said this already. The movie feels tangible.
It's extremely, and I believe it's Greg Fraser is the cinematographer. I believe that is mostly due to his hand in terms of how, yes, directing of course, but I think a lot of that, this reminds me of Dune. And you know who else, who did the cinematography for Dune? Greg Fraser.
Yep, I saw that.
It's the same.
I saw that.
It's not the same directing. It's not always the same framing, but the way in which light is captured, how shadows are used, and how like negative spaces are used is insanely well done. The opening sequence where we have, Batman doing his pretentious ass voiceover, being like, "I am the shadows," the fact that
I love
in
that.
every single time where he's like the bad guy, they think I'm in the shadows, I believed that. I walked into this movie trying to tell myself to temper my expectations, just chill.
Yeah, me too.
Watch it for whatever it's going to be. But then, 30 seconds in, I'm like,
this is Batman.
Holy cow, he really does terrorize these people.
Yeah.
And it's phenomenal. I'm like, I could see him popping out of any single one of those shots and it would have been totally fine. Because of the trailer, we know which one it's going to be. But, that doesn't really matter. That was awesome. And I like how the movie directly, not just, I don't know, this is a movie in conversation with, whether or not by accident, with the Dark Knight trilogy. In a good sense, it is literally a dialectic of this basically worldview of what the Dark Knight trilogy works up to is Batman has to be a symbol for people to make better choices. This is in direct opposition to that of Batman has to be the one pulling people out of the darkness to fix the system. The people, as Selena says, they don't have choices. Most of these things are just people don't have, you don't have the ability to choose between you. All of your options are crap. So the fact that he spent the past 2 years just punching people for robbing stores and stuff and it's not working is the point of the movie. He, instead of being vengeance in the shadows, Mr. Vengeance, he needs to actually be the light that pulls people out of the darkness.
I love that
and then they do it. It's so over the top, and I fucking cried.
I love that people call him Vengeance in the movie.
No one calls
him Batman. They're like Vengeance.
I think the word Batman is used twice.
So he says the end. It's the end of everything. The Batman.
Batman.
And then Batman.
Alfred says Batman once.
Yeah, probably.
That's it. It's instead of it being like, because in the trailer it's like, oh, it's so dark, and it's like this movie's like, yeah, and you're an idiot. You're an overly pretentious, you need to go touch grass and actually deal with the people you're supposed to be saving. You're supposed to be a hero, not just a vindictive, vengeful god. And I love that. The movie kind of indulges in the darkness just enough, and then it argues that that's not good.
I do love that it doesn't, what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't make trauma look sexy.
No.
I mean, he's sexy.
Yes.
But,
trauma. Also, he needs a shower.
Yeah, trauma's not sexy, but you know what else is sexy? That scene of him and Alfred in Wayne Tower.
Oh.
That one, I love that they just used one room. Basically one room in, like, little shots of him in his parents' bedroom. But I loved that, because you just walk in there, and it's like, holy shit, this is fucking old money, rich looking dude in this, like, robe. I'm like, I love that
Which
shit.
is funny, because the tower
It's
is
so
only
gothic.
the tower is only like 25 years old. They built that when he was a kid.
That's so gothic. I love it.
Will admit that I was very dumb. I realized that they didn't have the mansion anywhere. I hadn't realized until I think it was my second or third viewing, that the orphanage was the old mansion. So when Bruce is walking through those hallways, that used to be his home when he was like 5.
That
I
had
didn't
been
pick
like
up on that.
something that had to been like freaking him out, like when he was in there, or like feeling disgusted, or
like
this is
seeing
my
like
home.
drop heads in like his old bedroom. That's fucking weird.
Yeah. Also, like after reading bits and hearing about like the prequel novel, is that like he hated that he moved out of his home.
I can imagine.
He hated the tower and he wanted to go back home. He just hated that, and so like I imagine him going in there after hating that for so many years, like just more anger.
It feels like he's actually angry.
Speaking of anger, can we talk about the possible Venom drop?
So that was the one thing I think it was almost right after Jacob and I walked out was that Venom?
Yeah.
Because he uses a shot thingy, and if it wasn't bright green, I would have just said, he just has like a shot of like adrenaline. Like this is just like silly, whatever.
But
yeah, isn't it
glowing green?
But it's glowing green, and it's like
so comic
and he
booky,
goes
there's no
so
way it's
over the
adrenaline.
top rage mode.
Yeah.
So it could be some.
I didn't even pick that up.
So
I was looking for the Venom thing, because when I think of Venom, it's like he's literally like actual drug addict, but like no,
It's like,
and he's got 2 of those on his belt.
So my thoughts were, because of how clearly stressed out he is just in this movie alone, whereas he hasn't like taken a nap in like a week or whatever, because of the state we leave the city in and where the sequel is clearly going with what the handful of things it sets up, he's probably going to have to go berserk like immediately to start fixing things, and he's probably going to end up using that a lot.
I hope the next movie is that.
And that's what I was thinking, was it might have at least some influence from the Venom book, which would be great, because it has nothing to do with Bane yet. That book was just him being addicted to drugs. And I'm thinking that I think Jacob said it was like, it could be some disgruntled Wayne Tech employee who just, uses the drug or whatever. Like, we could find a way, instead of it being, I know, I'm making an Iron Boy Jr. joke.
Fine.
It could, instead of being like, hey guys, look, it's like a luchador, or like whatever, like some weird Venom you can do. Not Venom. Bane, you can do a bit more on the down low without just making him a really buff white boy.
I hope we don't get Bane yet.
I think it'll.
And I hope we don't get Riddler and the other character that we see.
I don't want the other character.
I don't want it yet. I want them to come back in like movie 4 or 5.
So I'm really reading into the interviews because of the announced change in direction from the GCPD show is now kind of a sequel to the movie. It's going to be about Arkham, or at least have a strong focus on it.
Oh, I heard something about that where someone's like, maybe this is an apology for the Gotham news. I'm like, what happened?
It's whatever. That stuff we'll cover later. But I'm thinking that we might see them at least a little bit, but because of how Matt Reeves was talking about unnamed Arkham prisoner, he doesn't sound like he's planning on using him yet. He's planting a couple of seeds. He wants you to know that he's there, and he's already tussled with Batman.
Yep.
But it sounded like he wasn't going to use him until at least movie 3.
And
I'm okay with that.
My second viewing, I definitely saw the scarred face
He
into a
looks
smile.
gnarly.
It's a
It
birth
looks
effect.
good.
I love that.
My last thought, because we should probably wrap this up, is that the end of the movie, there's a scene with the Batman and the Catwoman, and she's like, I'm leaving, and strapping my cats to the back of my motorcycle.
I loved that.
You should come with me. The Bat and the Cat has a good ring to it, doesn't it? And I want to point out that she forgot to mention dat fat gat hat.
All right. Good for you.
It makes me laugh.
If it makes him laugh, we'll let him have it.
There it was. That's what the joke was.
Yes.
I was so pleased that there was no post-credit scene. And I know this is something I always harp on because I'm a butthurt little boy. It was nice that it's like it reminded you that the URL for the AR game is still active, and they've been released. It's just like the pictures that were in Riddler's apartment,
Which is still cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
There's still
It's
stuff
simple.
going on though. It's
but it doesn't.
there's
It's
ciphers.
not a scene. It's not
Yeah.
sequel bait. It says they reiterate the point of Gotham likes a good comeback story. And It's like okay, so they'll be back. Maybe they'll do. I think I was leaning over to Jacob during that scene in Arkham and said that they'll probably do an adaptation of the War of Jokes and Riddles eventually, which I would be down with. But there's no sequel bait. There's set up.
Well,
There's the one scene is a little studio mandatey, a little bit hey, you need to use the character, but it's still done in a somewhat original sense. Clearly, Matt Reeves has spoken about it. It's definitely different, and that's fine. And they leave Gotham in an entirely different place, and Batman's in an entirely different place, but it doesn't feel like they could go so many different directions with this next movie.
right.
The fact that he doesn't have batarangs.
I'm fine with it.
I'm fine. It makes sense for realistic.
Yeah.
It's batarangs. Unless you're really skilled,
He uses the grapple gun like a battering anyway. He's always shooting that thing off.
Shut up. Unless you're super skilled in throwing knives or anything, it's
Hard as shit.
it's hard as shit, and also it's not as accurate unless you're fucking god tier and always get it. That's the whole point about it.
Also, he probably doesn't want to stab people. As much as this Batman inflicts really, really nasty violence, which he'll probably chill out
I like
on.
it as 2 grapple guns.
Yes.
That makes sense. And also they're to his wrist.
Yes.
That's
I
cool.
appreciate the fact that this, some of those Riddler goons might be dead, but that's because they shot themselves type deal. They threaded the needle on he hasn't and he doesn't kill people, but holy shit, he needs to chill out.
Yeah.
I really liked how they did that, and it felt very clear and concise. And then the next moment, he goes, I need to have my hero moment. And I was like, this is pure cheese, and I love that. It's slow-mo, the music swells, he's gonna electrocute himself. Ooh. I don't care.
I do like the
Branded goons. Branded goons.
That was great.
It's like Lego Batman.
Yes. I do love that he also took out his the bat, and it is a knife.
Yes.
I do like that,
we had
and it
speculated
has
on that
use,
for so
of
long.
course. Yeah, we're trying to figure out what it was, and it was said that it's a knife.
It's a knife. It was nice that he had used it a couple of scenes earlier with the...
Just a cut tape.
Yeah, it was
And that was-
nice
that was-
direct setup payoff.
Yeah.
I was wondering if he was gonna throw that, but he never did.
I don't think
glad
that would
he
throw
did.
well.
It doesn't.
It has
no,
a lot
I don't
of. It
think
has
so.
like
It's
the
freaking huge.
the clip part of it, which I think is what he has to grip to pull it out. Probably because that's
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
because it's not
embedded.
Jacob, right? Jacob had been like, I wonder how well that sticks. Is it
Right,
because
it's
it's
magnets.
We
clearly
thought it was magnets,
but not just magnets, because I think it goes inside the chest piece, so
Right.
it looks like it's magnets, and then if you have it pulling this way, you can't shake it out.
because it's if it's just magnets,
'Cause it
when it
goes-
gets shot at, it's gonna go flying.
Yeah.
So there has to be something else.
So it's probably a little. There's a little clip on the bottom that overlaps and goes into the suit or whatever. I think we should move on. I have to pee really quick. I'm gonna have to go turn the oven on so I can.
Logan.
What?
I have to pee.
So Jacob,
Yes.
aside from watching The Batman,
Yes.
what else have you been doing?
I read Daredevil, The Man Without Fear, Volume 1, the first omnibus, written by Brian Michael Bendis and arted by a whole bunch of people. I'm not even going to read their names. When he first took over, he wrote 4 issues, which look very unique, and it was pretty freaky. It's a story arc about child abuse. But it's done very, very well. Daredevil, oh my gosh, I can't even think of the villain.
Bullseye.
It's not Stiltman. It's one of the ridiculous ones.
Big Wheel.
Frogman.
Is it?
Condiment King.
It's Frogman.
Frogman. Daredevil and Frogman fight, and it turns out that there's this little boy who saw the fight and went into shock basically, and he's not talking and he's just drawing, and he's only saying old school comic book quotes. It's really, 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 really good. Turns out Frogman beat his kid, and Daredevil is a big softie about it. It's very well written. The rest of the run though is classic crime noir until it's like courtroom drama. And then Daredevil saves this blind chick, and he's like super hot for her, and Foggy's like, no, don't you dare, and he's like, shut up, Foggy, and he bangs her, because Daredevil's Catholic, which means...
He's a whore!
Yeah! I really liked the crime aspect of this whole run.
You heard it here first, folks. Jacob likes crime.
I love crime, especially when it's in a Daredevil book. The first step, basically, in this book was to kill off the Kingpin. Sort of, not really. But he disappears for like 7/8 of the run. Vanessa comes in and tries to take control and is like, forget about it, and sells off the whole crime syndicate, which pisses Kingpin off when he finally comes back.
Kingpin beats his wife.
No.
Oh.
She just comes in and is like, I have all the power. Nah, I don't want it. Sells it. And then leaves. Very, very good stuff. Very well written. Very well arted. I had this one shot that I wanted to show you with Vanessa in the shadows, and I lost it. I will find it when you guys are talking.
Wow, you lost it. Ooh, spooky.
Very spooky.
Very nice.
Vanessa in shadows.
Very nice.
Yeah. I am very excited to read more.
Nice.
Good stuff. Cover price is $100, and you get
Free penis.
7 times 4...
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
40-ish issues?
Nice.
45? Something
It's
like that?
like a medium-sized omnibus.
Yeah.
Nice. Very, very nice.
14, 20...
Do you recommend it?
Yeah.
34.
Congrats, Colin. You can count.
That was faster than going, 7 times
7 times 4, I couldn't come up with it. Add 6, 40-ish. Yes, I recommend it for Daredevil fans. It definitely feels like it came out in the early 2000s, because it did. It was like 2008. But it's still really good stuff.
Stonks.
Nice. Colin, have you done anything?
Yes.
Ooh.
Open Batman.
That's usually the way it goes.
So, choose between Batman Shaman and
That one. Just do it.
Earth 1.
Oh, do
Volume
Earth 1.
3.
Just do the Earth one. Do it.
Okay, so I read Volume 3 of Earth 1 Batman. It was rough.
It
was
falls
rough.
apart.
So I was reading through this and it was pretty good. And I was really excited when we got to the twist that like Harvey Dent was still alive and we got to see this really fucking mangled looking dude that's apparently Harvey. And I was super excited until the story came apart with it's just a dead corpse. And it's just his sister that's all fucked in the head, which makes no sense for her to be that fucked up.
Yeah, it legit makes no sense.
And it makes no sense, and then she's freaked out about her face wearing that mask when it's like barely a patch that's like burnt and whatever. So that was supposed to be a play of like she's so messed up in the head that she thinks this is so bad, which is a Harvey take of like The Dark Knight Returns where his face was actually cured.
Yeah,
but, like,
it just doesn't work.
And also, my favorite parts were like Killer Croc. I still think that like that was a solid thing. Killer Croc and like the dog, and Bruce is like, "Oh, hey dog," and Alfred's like, "Fine, the dog can stay." I don't like
Dad,
that.
could we keep the dog?
I don't like that they're Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in the sewers.
I kind of like that.
I think it would have been better. Like honestly, Matt Reeves did it better with being like in a terminus.
Yeah,
makes sense. The sewers is like, it's a little much
for me. The
me.
thing that really killed me on that book was the Arkham twist. I liked in concept, but the fact that it was so heavily tied into the stupid Harvey Dent crap made it so not worth it.
How basically that's a setup for Clayface.
Ugh, I hated that. And it's not even
I
it's
didn't
just
mind
like
that.
I like the fact that they weren't like, look, guys, it's Clayface. It's like, oh, this guy can mold his form, but he's like in prison, no one cares anymore. Like I liked that, but the fact that it was all a lie created by Dent was really annoying.
Mm-hmm.
Like if those were two separate things that could have worked. What do you think about the final couple of panels?
Hated it. So
Why?
we're
What
gonna
happens?
We're gonna have this talk. So
He tells me to hurry up, and then he says we're gonna have this talk.
So we get to see
A
how do I say this?
fully formed bat
so basically
family.
a fully formed bat family in like 2 panels, or basically 2 panels.
And then we get the Joker, baby.
And then we get the Joker, who looks fucked up. I don't mind it, but I won't talk about him. That's not what I want to talk about. I think it's annoying that, like, we need a team, need a team. And just, like, it all slams it at the end. And also, Robin is Dick Grayson's black for no reason. This is the talk I'm having.
Oh, boy.
So, I literally don't care about having any race superheroes, whatever. My problem has always been, if you want a black superhero, just make a new superhero. Or, if it's not Dick Grayson Robin, have some other character. We can have a black Robin. We can have a black Batman. Because, like, I actually like that eventually.
Yeah,
that storyline.
we've had a couple of those.
Yeah, I like that. I'm fine with that. Why does an old character have to be a different race?
We've had this talk a few times. We're all kind of in the same kind of area.
It makes no sense right now because we don't have a story explaining if it actually adds anything.
Right.
If it makes anything different, it could be a like, oh, the Joker's racist and killed these dudes in the circus.
That's an interesting idea, but
because a clown killed them in this.
Right, but that's the thing is it's not going to go anywhere, and that's my biggest problem with this whole issue is it got rewritten so many times over the 8 years it was delayed or whatever. This thing has so many plot lines resolved in it, and also a bunch of new ones set up. Like this is multiple books worth of stuff.
Yes,
the fact that we have an entire Bat family with a weird group of people, by no means a bad thing, but it's just there. It's like
there's also this other person that's off to the side.
That's Ragman, who's never been in the Bat family before, which is fine. It's so out of left field.
Where did they even show Ragman?
Exactly. Nowhere. That's the point. It's like you're clearly the book's not going to make any money, so you're just like fine, everything's done, and that I think is really disappointing.
And then gets it up with who are you? I'm nobody, baby.
Yeah, it's just weird. Did you like Catwoman's suit?
There's also that.
She just wears Catgirl gear. It's so weird.
Horny. But my favorite Catwoman suit is BTS. So if she wore that, I would have been Awooga. Or if her boots went all the way up to her thighs, in that
he really loves thigh highs.
Dude, I fucking love thigh highs. Then Awooga, yeah.
So,
Spencer, what have you done?
Oh fuck. This has been boiling for a very long time. It's been my filler content when I'm bored and I don't really want to do anything.
Yeah.
I have watched the entirety of the 90s Spider-Man series.
Nice.
Just 5 seasons.
Jeez, they're fast paced.
They're 20-minute episodes. There's 12, I think, a season. I've been doing this for months. So I'm going through this entire semi-shared universe of shows. They're not, but they are, but whatever. And I start with Spider-Man because that's the one that I liked when I was younger. It starts off pretty darn rough animation-wise. It has some cool concepts. That's when they started playing around with using 3D environments with 2D people, and it's clearly innovative, but sometimes it looks like crap. Particularly the first season, they will have a 3D city, and then they'll have a flat 2D Spider-Man swinging through it. It looks like absolute dog shit. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, the character writing is really, really good. It's quippy and simplistic enough where it's clearly good for kids to get a gist to who the characters are, but it's also unique enough in terms of how it has differing villain origins and different characteristics for some characters that it sets itself apart from the comics. And I don't remember his name, but the showrunner for the show wrote almost every single episode. This is basically his version of Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. And it actually ends up feeling like the Raimi movies were based more off of this series than they were off of the comics, because they take a lot of elements really, really directly and a lot of the vibes. It's really good. There are some things which are kind of silly. The censorship thing is mostly a lie, but it is funny that when people die, they just go to another dimension, but whatever. There's a lot of things that this show pioneered in a sense that we just take it for granted now, the black suit changing Spider-Man's mood and making him more violent. That started here. Mm-hmm. It directly dripping onto Eddie Brock. That started here. Mary Jane being the first love interest, that started here. A whole bunch of shit started in this series. Really good stuff. I enjoyed it. It's good Saturday morning cartoons that aren't sloppy.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're really rushed. They do feel cheap on occasion, whether it be low panel count or weird character designs. And it's made to sell toys, but for the budget that they had and the people behind it, they clearly had a lot of passion for the project. And I freaking love it. It ends on multiple cliffhangers, and I hate that, but good quality Spider-Man content. But he's built like a football player, and I don't like it.
Will
Zero
you-
out of 10. I've never liked stocky Spider-Man.
I've always loved it. Fuck
Will you ever buy it on a physical platform?
I don't think it's out on Blu-ray yet, but if I can ever get the whole a complete collection, I
Right.
will for sure.
on,
I've just been
on Blu-ray?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's worth the upgrade. I've been watching it off of Disney Plus. Every superhero is built. Let Spider-Man be slender.
No.
Every superhero looks like they play football. They're all broad, massive pieces of shit.
What's wrong with that?
I didn't say there's anything wrong
Iron
with
Man
it.
should be slender.
Sure, I don't care.
Batman's cool, slender. Or lean, I mean.
Batman can be anything.
I
And
like
that's why
how he's
Batman's
lean.
perfect.
Yes.
Spider-Man.
Let Spider-Man be
being
lean
skinny,
and angular.
adds to the spider powers.
It makes it more convincing when he actually is being a Peter Parker dork who gets bullied,
Yeah.
or at least, or if he's an adult and he gets thrown under the bus. It feels weird when it's like, look at this glorious. He's never supposed to be ugly, but look at this literal Chad. Come on, let him be either ugly or skinny, not both though. Anyways,
So if he's not a Chad, does that make him a Trevor?
You know what makes him
probably.
what makes him even more of a Spider-Man is that he's in awkward fucking poses all the time. That's the whole point of him.
Also true, which was really weird when he's stocky and it just turns into likey. Anyways,
Sure.
Jacob.
Colin is completely to blame for this because for Christmas he got me a Funko Pop of Thanos as Punisher, as I don't even know what. He's got a big ass gun and the Punisher suit on, and I was like, what the heck? What in heckin' is this from? I've never even heard of it. Also, it's a bobblehead. Yeah.
You know why? Marvel and Star Wars. Oh, so good. That's so good. You know why Marvel and Star Wars pop figures are bobbleheads? And not all the other?
No.
It's because your mom. But no, what it is a licensing thing because they don't have the actual license to make those figures. So what they do is they're not actual action figures. They're bobbleheads. So you guys can't sue us. That's the reason why.
Dang. They put the action in action figure, and it
Because
makes
they're not action figures.
Yeah, but there's an actual action to it because the head's moving.
That's the funny part. It's not. It's a bobblehead.
That's awesome.
Yup.
Yes, I read the Cosmic Ghost Rider Omnibus, written by Danny Cates and arted yet again by way too many people.
Danny DeVito.
Yes. So it collects the 2016 Thanos issues 13 through 18 and the Thanos Annual, where Thanos wins, sort of. But that's how. That's where it explains the Punisher getting the Ghost Rider powers.
Why do you keep saying Thanos?
Thanos, whatever.
You say Thanos.
Tomato.
No, I'm fine with that. But I just wanted to know if it was like a specific reason or.
I hate the nasally Thanos.
Thanos.
But then it gets Cosmic Ghost Rider 1 through 5, and then Cosmic Ghost Rider destroys the Marvel Universe 1 through 6, and then the first 6 of Guardians of the Galaxy written by Donny Cates in 2019, and a couple other things. So basically, Thanos wins. It creates this really cool, out of left field Cosmic Ghost Rider. Freaking Punisher, Ghost Rider, Silver Surfer, all mixed up into one big ball. And then somebody said, that's a really cool idea. You get 5 issues to just do something fun with that character. So that's why they made Cosmic Ghost Rider. And that was really fun. Punisher goes back in time. It asks the classic, if you had a time machine, would you go back and
Kill Hitler?
kill Hitler? Only with Thanos.
Oh. Thanos is Purple Hitler?
Yes, literally, Space Hitler. So they do that, and it only makes things worse which is so cool, which is how in the new future Thanos is wearing the Punisher outfit and is basically Punisher because that's who Cosmic Ghost Rider used to be. He just grew up to be like Dad, and it made Thanos even worse. Now, because you said that I'm swapping Thanos and Thanos just to bug you.
I didn't even notice anymore.
And then after that, Cosmic Ghost Rider gets classic Ghost Ridered and is only used as backup characters in other things. Because he can't get his own run.
Did you say he used to be Thanos?
No.
What were you saying?
He used to be Punisher. Punisher becomes Ghost Rider, but a
Oh.
little bit of the Silver Surfer too.
Weird.
He doesn't listen.
So,
No.
I skipped the first issues of the 2019 Guardians of the Galaxy run because it's written by Donny Cates, which is collected in its own omnibus, and that'll probably be the next thing I get. But also it has Wolverine, Black, White, and Blood #3, which I already have. It seems like a weird inclusion, but I'm sure it has Cosmic Ghost Rider in there somewhere. But that's kind of my point, is that he just becomes a background character by the end of this book, which kind of sucks because it's such a fun idea. It's just so batshit crazy. There are so many we don't even care. What was that screenshot I sent you? Hold please. Yeah, right here. So
oh my gosh.
it has the Guardians of the Galaxy of like a different timeline when Cosmic Ghost Rider is killing Space Purple Hitler, but not.
Mm-hmm.
So it has Juggerduck, which is Howard the Duck as Juggernaut. Jubilee, and it doesn't say anything about that. Iron Groot, which is Rocket Raccoon as Groot, as Iron Man, and Captain Marvel. It's
What in the world?
batshit crazy, but that's what makes this run so fun, is like they don't care. They're just making crazy stuff. Very enjoyable read. Cover price is $100. I found it on sale, and then I used credit card points to get it for half of that.
Ooh.
Absolutely worth it.
Nice.
Oh,
Are you gonna get the next one?
I have not seen anything about the next one. It says volume 1 at the bottom of the binding, but a lot of Marvel omnibuses do that and then don't do anything else.
Yeah, Marvel's very annoying like that. They seem to underestimate how much people want their books.
Well, that's it for Dime Comic Bros podcast.
I did a lot of reading this week.
Apparently you did. I'm very jealous.
Me too.
I did like the first half of both of these before this first half of this before my trip, and then that one, the first half on my trip, and then the second half of both of them this week.
You are a bad man.
I know.
I watch things more than I read.
We know.
I'm exactly the opposite. I hardly watch anything.
So if you've managed to make it all the way through, thank you for listening. It would be greatly appreciated if you could drop some interaction on whatever platform you're on. It does help. Be cool. Thanks. Next week, it will just be the other two morons. I am taking the week off, and they will be discussing the news.
Maybe.
Maybe. We'll see. I might get bored.
There's a lot of good news.
He gets bored.
You get to talk about Obi-Wan.
I'll talk about it.
I'll talk about
He'll be
Obi-Wan.
in the corner playing Legos, making monkey sounds.
So
Yeah.
if you want to get any behind-the-scenes updates, behind-the-scenes pictures, memes, weird shit, Jacob photoshopping us, all sorts of funny stuff, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. What are you doing?
Don't worry about it. He's playing with your ass. Like always.
A big thank you to our...
Your ass is squishier than I thought it was.
Jesus fucking Christ. A big thank you to our patrons over at patreon.com/dimecomicbros, Jeff Lawrence and Dave. Thank you for supporting us continuously. It helps a lot. If you want to become a patron, you can get all sorts of cool benefits, like plenty of stickers whenever we make new ones, all designed by Colin, as well as getting your name shouted out every episode on all of our podcasts. You can also get all the podcasts early, all sorts of fun stuff, exclusive segments and clips and whatnot. So go to patreon.com/dimecomicbros for that. Visit our website at dimecomicbros.com. It has been updated, finally, to include all of our new information and the second podcast and all sorts of other fun stuff. If you want to listen to our other podcasts where Jacob and I talk about video games once a month, go check it out at Dime Gaming Bros on YouTube and all the audio platforms, wherever you listen to this podcast. This past month, Jacob talked about Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, Layers of Fear, and I talked about Doom Eternal, and we both talked about the Uncharted movie. So go check that out. It's lots of fun. A thank you to our partners over at Jetpack Comics and Games in downtown Rochester, New Hampshire. Over at the Mega Store, they got all sorts of crazy stuff. They got comics on the walls. They got signed stuff. They host signings. They have collectibles. They got Funko Pops. All sorts of crazy stuff. Go check them out. Tell them that we sent you. We might bump into you. You never know. Is that it?
I think that's it.
Thanks for listening, you degenerative scum. Go watch the Batman more so we know that we're going to get a Batman sequel, even though we know we're going to get a Batman sequel. Give it your money.
Apparently, it's already made $300 million.
That's insane.
As
I'm going to give it more money today.
best as I could find, but
yeah. Opening weekend was like 240 international. It was insane. Yeah. Bye-bye.